minimal capital investment. Enable any investor, however little money you have, $100,000, $50,000, to be able to come in and set up a business in Ghana.
The president has been talking about plans to make Ghana a hub for assembling automobiles.
Japan has a comparative advantage when it comes to automobile manufacturing. And like I said, using the opportunity to be able to export into not only our sub-region but into Africa, then Ghana becomes a good place for local assembly of automotive products. And already we have Japanese companies that are based in Ghana and assembling for the local market and also for exporting to the sub-region. Brands like Toyota, the Honda is there, and several other ones.
Is the country on that path to securing and upgrading credit rating by all the international agencies? Now we'll get questions on that. Before that, let's get some statement that has to do with the analysis of Ghana's rating, which is coming on your screen now. Now, according to the Finance Ministry, on a statement that was released yesterday, August 19, 2025, the Ministry of Finance is pleased to announce another successful coupon payments under the Domestic Debt Exchange Program. That was yesterday. The total amount paid for this obligation stands at 9.67 billion Ghana cedis, $1 billion basically. With this payment, total disbursement under the DDEP in 2025 fellow now stands at 19.4 billion Ghana cedis. The payment demonstrates government's unwavering commitment to honoring the terms outlined in the Memorandum of Understanding signed under the exchange program and is expected to strengthen the investor confidence and support local credibility. So this has been the commitment that government has subscribed to, fulfilling its payment of 9.4 billion Ghana cedis. That indeed is what the Finance Ministry has done. Now let's get on Zoom and speak to economist and senior lecturer at Economics Department of the University of Ghana, Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie. Welcome to the marketplace. Now, Doc, before we get into these debt payment issues, what do you make of the president's projection about inflation hitting a single digit by the end of this year, 2025? All right, Doc, can you please unmute? All right, before we bring Doc in, so you've understood that indeed this commitment reflects the consistent DDEP government has signed on to and the restructuring obligations that government must subscribe to. We have Dr. Owusu-Sarkodie back on Zoom. Doc, welcome back to the marketplace. Now, before we get into these debt payment issues, what do you make of the president projection that before the close of 2025, it's likely inflation will hit a single digit? All right, so we'll do very well to bring Doc back into the conversation. But before we do that, the Bank of Ghana has given the firm assurance that it has adequate dollar reserves to meet market demands. It is therefore insisting that there is no need for businesses to panic and push for dollars when possibly they have no need for them now. George Biafre has the rest of the story.
The Bank of Ghana, however, admits that some of these difficulties experienced by businesses and individuals that were looking for dollars to finance their imports is due to some recent regulatory reforms. This has sought to streamline how dollars were supplied to the market from the Bank of Ghana as well as commercial banks to their clients. The central bank has also revealed that their supply stance for the market has not changed, even though demand has picked up strongly over the past weeks. Some of them, the central bank argued that it has been fueled by fears of further depreciation, but not real demand. Officials of the Bank of Ghana have also told Joy Business that some of these fresh measures that have been implemented to deal with the sudden reduction in remittance inflows is yielding some results already, a move that could also go a long way to deal with the dollar flow on the market. On the exchange rate, the Bank of Ghana argued that it wants to see the recent blips on the market as normal rather than rushing with some panic dollar injections to try and correct it, because an effective
Now, away from that, the former Director General of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, NET, Ernest Thompson, has been appointed chairman of the reconstituted board of the Ghana Petroleum Commission. He will work with 6 other members to steer the affairs of the commission. The members include Chief Executive Victoria Emiefa Hardcastle, Professor Nanama Brown, Kluche, Chrysla Akwe Ankra, Joseph Kwesi Mensah, Dr. Haishetu Abukari, and Hassan Thompson Osman. Inaugurating the board, the Minister of Energy and Green Transition, John Abdullah Jinapo, highlighted the challenges facing the upstream petroleum sector, citing recent arbitrations, declining investment, and dwindling oil and gas reserves. Now we go back to Zoom and speak to Professor Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie on this development that has to do with the presidency as well as inflation projection. Doc, welcome to the marketplace. Now, before we get into other conversation, I want to understand from you what you make of the president's projection that inflation is likely to hit a single digit by the end of 2025.
Yeah, we have seen that the disinflation curve is steep. In other words, the rate at which inflation is reducing is so fast, and we are very likely to hit a single digit. The target for the year, as contained in the 2025 budget, was 11.9%. Currently, we are doing 12.7%. So if you go by the same pace, we are likely to hit below 10%. As by the end of the year, as said by the president. We know the drivers of inflation. The major driver of inflation in Ghana has been the exchange rate. And we are also witnesses to the fact that the cedi has really appreciated, or in recent times has been stabilized for a long time. So to the extent that we don't expect or anticipate any further increment in international crude oil price, because that would also feed into transport fares and a general rise in the price levels. Also, we should be able to contain the upward adjustment or any upward adjustment of tariffs, electricity tariffs and the water tariffs. If all these things come to play in our favor, then we are very likely to hit a single-digit inflation by the close of the year, which is good news for us.
Great. Doug, is it a prudent decision in terms of plans to remove the minimum capital requirement for investors, as was stated by the president?
Well, I don't know. I have not read the full speech by the president, but if I'm just going by your question, I think that it is there is a reason behind giving a minimum capital requirement, so that not just anybody can just enter into a business without stating the capital requirement. Then you start a business, you get into the middle of it, you get a registration, and then you're not starting. They will ask you, why haven't you started? You say, I don't have money. I think that situation is what's going to prevent. That is why a minimum capital requirement was given. If we want to remove the minimum capital requirement, we should identify certain sectors. It shouldn't be a wholesale removal for foreign investors. It should be some specific sectors. And I would say, let's go into agriculture. If the foreign investor is going into agriculture, then in that sense, no minimum capital requirement needed, so that, because we want the sector to grow. But it cannot be a sector like banking or insurance, where a foreign investor wants to go and say there should be no minimum capital requirement. I think we should select the sectors and be specific about those sectors.
Great. On the bond payment, are we running ahead of ourselves when we say that Ghana's credit rating should be reviewed upwards because of these payments that has reflected, just as yesterday indicated by the press release from the Finance Ministry?
I don't think it is now in our authority to call for any review or upward review of our credit ratings. The rating agencies are always there to observe situations in the economy, and they determine whether it should be upgraded or downgraded. We cannot call on them to upgrade us. We have to put our house in order, and by the look of things, they would upgrade us, and they have been upgrading us. We saw how now sustainable our debt situation is. It's declined from as high as over 90% to currently about 43.7%. They will look at that. They will also look at your debt service to revenue ratio, and they will upgrade you. They will look at your revenue performance. In fact, in the year 2022, when we lost access to the capital market, it was because they cited the government's inability to pass the e-levy and also reverse the 50% benchmark values in that year. That is why they downgraded us. In other words, they said that Ghana government would not have the capacity to raise enough revenue to service their debt. But so if you demonstrate that you can raise enough revenue to service your debt, they would upgrade you. I mean, all the other indicators are working for our good. So they will look at all these things and upgrade us. In the next ratings, I'm sure Ghana will score a higher mark or a higher grade than we have now.
Great. Now, what signal does this send to external investors who are possibly observing this current commitment from government?
Positive signal, positive one. Ghana's economy has stabilized. We have seen all the macroeconomic variables working to our favor, with the exception of, I think, the lending rate, which is also very high, which is still very high. But I think that all other macro indicators are pointing to the right direction. So, and we also have the IMF with us, the World Bank is with us, all these international bodies, when they are with you, international investors will be interested in doing business with you. So business confidence now in Ghana is high. Consumer sentiments are also high. So it is good for us. We just have to keep committed to the tenets of the IMF program. And the government also have to stay committed to and stay disciplined, fiscal discipline in terms of management of our finances, and also come up with nice ways of raising revenue without overburdening the existing taxpayers. We have to find innovative ways of raising revenue. In that sense, I'm sure investors will be willing to do business with us. So it's a good thing for the country. I think that we should keep working. As they say in primary school, there's more room for improvement. We can do better than we have now. And I'll end on the note of the natural resource. I'm always an advocate of the fact that we have enough natural resource. Today, Ghana produces more gold than any country in Africa. And in terms of ranking, we are number 6 in the whole world. Not only gold do we have lithium, we have crude oil, we have manganese, aluminum. Let's leverage on this to raise enough revenue to develop our country.
Great, Doc. Now, before I let go of you, you've made some incredible assessment. Would you advise government to now go ahead and reissue the short-term domestic bonds?
Yes, I will advise them. The reason being that, the capital market is shut. We are unable to go to the international capital market. That's the Euro bond. We are just, government is surviving on domestic borrowing. And then also, for some time now, the Treasury bill has been undersubscribed because of the fall in the interest rates. So since investors are finding alternative portfolio investments, government must also find alternative sources of raising revenue or borrowing. So yes, I think that the government should go ahead and raise those short-term bonds on the market. Thank you very much, Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie, for your insight here on the marketplace. Now, news coming in from the Ghana Statistical Service. The producer price index for the month of July has slowed marginally to 3.8%. The index, which gauges the average price quote and cost of production for industry, slowed from 5.8% in June to this new level. According to data released by the Ghana Statistical Service today, this is the lowest since November 2023. The development could impact on general price levels of goods and services in the coming month.
It's now time for Let's Talk Tech. The Bank of Ghana is finalizing a regulatory framework for cryptocurrency platforms set to be submitted to Parliament by September 2025. The proposal, which is Virtual Asset Providers Act, aims to license and regulate virtual asset service providers, that is VASPs, including crypto exchanges and wallet providers, to ensure transparency, consumer protection, and financial stability. Joining us to discuss this today on Let's Talk Tech is lead for ISOF Africa, Henry Kobler. Henry, welcome back to the marketplace. It's been a while.
Thank you very much.
Great. Now, how do you see this legislation impacting the current crypto ecosystem in Ghana?
Thank you very much. So I think that when we started speaking about crypto on your platform, crypto at the time was almost about 23,000, especially for Bitcoin. Now, as we speak now, crypto is 114,000. You can understand the wide difference if people at the time had made investment into this virtual asset. It's a very critical aspect of us, again, because we're always looking at technology and how technology always precedes regulation. And I think that at this time, we've really been lagging behind, especially because it's been left off as a very gray area. But this comes as a very great news, especially when we have a good timeline to where that's being placed in Parliament in September. I'm looking at some level of legitimacy and trust coming into the crypto space, where you're having more industry players coming into it. Because again, when technology comes into play, you're always looking at industry players or institutional players coming on to give it some level of confidence. And I'm sure that if we have some level of regulations coming around it, it's going to give some level of legitimacy to it. Again, you're also looking at local exchanges, startups, coming to be very clear and in a very regulated environment rather than staying in a gray zone. You're going to have quite a number of innovations coming up. I've seen quite a number of good innovations, investment platforms popping up within the crypto space. And I'm sure that if we have clear regulations that guide us, we're going to be really in a very good space. Again, you're also going to have some level of foreign investment. I've seen some very good foreign companies trying to get into the space, especially for our country, and some sort of have exited because there's no clear regulations that guides us in there. But I'm sure that when it's laid in Parliament and approved, we're going to have some level of increased foreign investment which comes in. And when it comes down to crypto, it's a very huge level. I mean, one Bitcoin sells $114,000. You can.
Now, I want to understand from you, you mentioned some key developments, such as some more companies coming to light. Why do you think the Bank of Ghana is prioritizing cryptocurrency? Yes, Kobla, I want to understand from you, why do you think the Bank of Ghana is actually prioritizing cryptocurrency regulation now that things are more happening globally?
I mean, you can't be too late to the party. And so you only have to just join the party, especially when you've had to study the trends. Like I mentioned, it's been far-fetched. We've looked at the trends over the years. I mean, it's more than 10 years cryptos have sort of been around. And I'm sure that the Bank of Ghana has taken a cue on it. I've seen them pushing to the ECID, which probably is a Gulf coin. They themselves trying to get into the space and play. They've already given a platform, which is the sandbox, which allows people to be able to submit their projects. They've had to study some of these projects. They've had to study and do a lot more research. And I'm sure that that gives them some level of credence. I mean, you can never be late to the party, like I mentioned, but we're never too late in this player.
Now, for the average Ghanaian crypto user, what would change once this act is implemented?
So, well, you're going to have to deal with a lot of licensed platforms only, which would ensure that there's some level of safety of funds which comes in. And I'm sure that KYC is going to be a very big deal. I mean, ID card verifications before you do trading is going to be a high level point, which is very good because quite a number of the platforms just allow you to trade without having to do any KYCs. And so that's really going to come out strongly. We're also going to have some level of playground when it comes down to dispute resolutions, because again, there are quite a number of times that people have been in the crypto space and they do not know who to talk to, how to resolve disputes when it comes down to that. Taxation is really going to be a good one in that space as well, because you're going to have taxes coming onto some of the profit gains that you're going to have, being able to move your money from crypto platforms to the banking sector or into the mobile money sector. You probably will be looking at some taxation is picking up from there. Some level of confidence and transparency is going to clear within it. All through it, I think that it will make sense to a lot more people here to have some level of trust and to be able to deal in crypto directly rather than staying off the hook and still being able to make some level of investment. And I think that the government in itself is also going to benefit greatly from it.
Thank you very much, Henry Kobler, for bringing down the curtains on today's edition of The Marketplace. And that will be all. For more business update, visit majoronline.com/business. And we have amazing, insightful stories there for your comprehension. Thank you for watching today's edition. My name is Winston Taki. Expect more conversation on Beyond the Numbers at 2 p.m. Have a good business day. Bye-bye.